So, I have obtained the Lego Retro Record Player gift with purchase due to some Christmas shopping. Now, normally this isn't really the content that I would post on this channel, but I thought it would be fun since it is a new set and I, haven't really gotten to talk about the whole Muppets removal. So, a 2-for-1 where I'm going to be building the set and discussing my thoughts on Muppets and Rock and Roller Coaster and Monsters Inc. And some other stuff probably because Disney makes a lot of decisions and most of them recently have not been great. Anyways, let's get started. So, let's go ahead and start with Muppets, right? So, the other day, Disney announced that MuppetVision3D is gone. It is being removed for Monstropolis, which means we get the door coaster at Hollywood Studios over on Grand Avenue, which is good. I like Monsters Inc. It was one of my favorite movies growing up. The sequel show, prequel series, prequel movie are both good. I like the original the best, but both of those are solid. I'm excited for the door coaster. That has always been a yes, I would write that if it ever became reality. Sure, fine. But it's coming at the cost of Muppet Vision. Now, that's not the best option. I didn't like that option back in August during D23, and I don't really like that option now. They knew this was going to be a problem because otherwise they wouldn't have announced it right before Thanksgiving. They've got Moana 2 coming out, which was one of their biggest movies. That's why it was originally slated to be added to Animal Kingdom. That's why it's been added to Fantasmic. That's why it was a major part of Happily Ever After and the 50th show of Enchantment. And, it's got its own little walkthrough attraction at Epcot. But that's still a few days away, and that's going to help hide the Muppets news. Well, yes, sure, it is making its rounds now. People are forgetful. It is not going to be until Muppets closes that people go, oh, it's actually closed, So that's an issue. Now, Muppets just got a refurb last year, which means there's a lot of wasted park money. Sure, yes, they are planning to keep Muppets Theater for Monstropolis. We don't know what show is going to be there. It's supposed to be a new show, but we don't currently know what's supposed to be there. I'm hoping that it's put that thing back where it came from, or So Help Me. It needs a much shorter title. But we're going to be stuck with the revamped Muppets Theater instead of being able to have proper funding put towards a new theater. Mostly because of the fact that we're going to have no reason to redo the theater. They just redid it. Why would, even if Muppets doesn't close until right before they absolutely need to close it next year when they're working on Monstropolis, which I'm sure, because, and I'm going to try to put this on screen, but they've got the exit to MuppetVision right at the corner of Stage 1, the gift shop that was only open for the 35th anniversary. And that's... I think there was also a cast member sale had it. But it's never open, except for special events. And then you've got Mama Melrose, and you've got Pizza Rizzo. But you can't have guests coming out right there and be taking down the shop and changing Mama Melrose into Harryhouses. It's just not going to work. So MuppetVision is going to end up being closed, and we're going to have whatever, replace it. Fine, sure, fine. Okay, so Monstropolis is going in Grand Avenue. Fine, whatever. But MuppetVision very much has felt like they didn't actually know that they were going to remove it, at least on the park side. Imagineering gave us concept art a couple months ago that showed it was, one of the potential locations, the other being Animation Courtyard. And that's kind of the problem here. Why did we not have this set up between D23 and now, so that as soon as MuppetVision closed, we would have Lightning McQueen. So let me back up a little bit. Lightning McQueen Racing Academy closed early October. I think like October 7th, October 8th, somewhere in there. If they were going to remove Lightning McQueen Racing Academy and then remove MuppetVision, why did we not just move MuppetVision over next to Rock and Roller Coaster? It feels like very poor planning and definitely bare minimum miscommunication between engineering, whoever forced it to be Grand Avenue as the location instead of Animation Courtyard, and the parks, who, obviously they're trying to make a little bit of sense around the villains hype. That's why it wasn't a D23 announcement. It's, they're not making announcements in place correctly. It's kind of like Jollywood Nights last year, where it was, hey, we're doing this, and then it existed. Jollywood Nights, especially the night that I went to, was not as good. It improved, sure, but it was not as good. That's why it only sold out 4 nights, and one of those nights got canceled because of a storm. This year it has been a drastic improvement. Sure, fine. But we're seeing that kind of announcement again with the Villain Show. They went, oh, people are actually really, really, really hyped about this. We need to be utilizing this hype to draw people into Hollywood studios, especially, with a lesser attended attraction being removed as potential collateral, which ended up being Lightning McQueen Racing Academy. But if they had announced in August that MuppetVision was going to go away, they could have had MuppetVision just move over to Sunset Boulevard. So we ended up instead getting the announcement that was rumored last year for Destination D23 of Electric Mayhem taking over the Rock and Roller Coaster from Aerosmith. Now, sure, fine. I'm not going to go into all the little details about why that's actually a good idea. Because mostly because YouTube's going to yell at me if I do it. But it makes sense. Disney doesn't own the licensing for Aerosmith. They have to license out from Universal. And this way they don't have to be like, oh, well, give us Aerosmith and we'll give you Simpsons or whatever, right? This actually makes sense. Muppets, if they would actually do something with them, are a bit more timeless than any real-world rock band. Sure, it might not bring in as many people, but it's still Rock and Roller Coaster at the end of the day, just with a different coat of paint. It's still most likely going to be the back alley. It's still going to, it's definitely going to be the same coaster. They just spent a year fixing that. They're not going to drastically change that. But I think that is a good choice. They just made the incorrect decision for it. Using it as oh, well, we know people are going to be upset about Muppet Vision being removed, but here's Muppets, they're still in the park. No, absolutely not. We deserve to have both. I don't care until they actually announce how they're preserving both the show and the effects. It doesn't mean anything. That, for all we know, that could mean moving MuppetVision3D over to Disneyland Paris. Or Pittsburgh. It's not a great choice to remove Muppet Vision without having a solid backup for it. A Disney Plus version of Muppet Vision is not going to have the same impact. Yes, sure. 3D is not, uncommon anymore. Nintendo did 3DS 10 years ago when everyone else was doing their, 3D TVs and whatnot. It's not, an interesting concept anymore. Fine. I accept that. But that doesn't mean that you can just go, well, here's, the video for it. Because then you get Back to the Future, the ride, which Universal did when they removed Back to the Future for Simpsons. And that is a significantly lesser version than the ride. I don't want to see that for something that is so beloved. Also, it's Disney. You have the space, Disney. Just preserve it somewhere. Move it to Disney Springs for all I care. Just something more than, oh, well, this was the cheaper option. Come on. You've got to decide what is important here, Disney. Is it important to have all these e-ticket attractions, especially in Hollywood Studios, which is already made up of mostly e-tickets, and nowhere for anyone else to go? With Lightning McQueen down, and Muppet Vision soon to follow, that leaves Alien Swirling Saucer and Star Tours. And that's kind of it. Mania has always kind of been an e-ticket. It's at least D. And then everything else is certainly treated as an e-ticket. You need more attractions to draw people away. Just eat the crowds. Muppet Vision, yeah, sure, fine. Muppet Vision has only had a 10-minute wait the entire year, fine. But it also has a theater for 500 plus people. Why are we acting like those are separate things? Muppet Vision has to have a significant portion of people going to it at one time in order to have more than one show be filling it. It's just fine. But it's not the only issue here either. Like, yeah, okay, fine. I'm upset about Muppet Vision. Fine. Obviously, this is not going to change anything. Disney's already made the decision. And they will... I don't know how much I trust their decision to preserve it until after we actually get some info about it. Once we know how they're preserving it, then, maybe I'll treat it less harshly. But right now, they're going to close that whole area for a couple of years, and we're going to be down a massive people eater. Now, as for Monstropolis, I am excited. I do think it's a bit annoying that they removed the playground that was slated for the concept art for Animation Courtyard. That feels like a misstep. There should be a playground somewhere in Hollywood Studios, since they won't put it in Toy Story Land. Studios is going to end up being more of an adult park than Epcot at the rate they're going, because kids, especially young kids, are not going to be able to do anything. It is a massive issue, and Disney doesn't seem to care. So, Studios is also just going to be kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of IPs with no real theming behind it. And that's more annoying for some people than others. I happen to enjoy all the attractions that are there, so I'm fine with that. But I think we could have had Monstropolis and kept a Muppet area properly, but obviously they're not in agreement with that. Now, there's more going on with Disney than just studios, right? I saw the other day, or yesterday, I think, that Bluey, one of their top watched shows every single week on Disney Plus, has been given a kind of theme park-ish attraction thing over in Australia. Similar to like the Wiggles or Pokemon, kind of, sort of. Like they're losing out on one of the biggest draws. Disney has to be aware of how big of a draw Bluey is, right? Like they've already said previously that they're going to use Disney Plus to help decide moves for the park going forward. I don't agree with that, because it's a stupid decision that is going to mean popularity at a time, like let's say when ELO, I think that's how it's pronounced, releases, right? Let's say that is the number one Oh, let's ignore that. Look at Encanto, right? Encanto released 3 years ago. They still have not given it anything more than a meet and greet. Where, yeah, sure, in about a month and a half, they're going to be giving us the starting of Encanto in Animal Kingdom. But that means we are going to have nearly 6 years, based on projections that they've told us, between Encanto being actually super popular and actually giving us an attraction for it. What, like, they're not doing anything quickly enough that it's like, and yeah, sure, yes, it is a slow process to get approval and whatnot, and fine. But you cannot be doing Disney Plus. This is popular on Disney Plus right now. Okay, but by the time that you build it in 5 years, who's to say that it's going to be popular? Who's to say it wasn't a fluke? Who's to say it wasn't Taylor Swift's Eras Tour, being on Disney Plus exclusively? They cannot be making decisions, especially long-reaching decisions like that, based on, okay, but what is popular on Disney Plus? You need, like, look at Monsters Inc., right? Yes, Tokyo Disney got one. And yes, Disneyland got one. But they haven't done anything at Disney World. And that has been a movie for 20 odd years. They, especially with this being, one, their most popular of resorts, and two, the redheaded stepchild in terms of being actually developed, as we keep getting hand-me-downs, or the lesser versions, in the case of Galaxy's Edge and Tiana's, then what are we supposed to be doing here, Disney? Like, we're supposed to just wait until 20 years after something's popular to be getting the best version of the land, or the attraction, or whatever? Like, we can't be doing that. Now, let's not be all completely doom and gloom, right? The Christmas tree stroll for Disney Springs also has been going on for a few weeks now, and I really enjoyed that. Like, Disney, while a lot of Disney's more recent decisions have been annoying me, some of their decisions are the correct move. Adding Magic Band Plus effects to nearly every tree in the stroll is an amazing move. You have physical effects for the AP tree, the Nightmare Before Christmas tree, the Haunted Mansion tree, which also does a light-up effect with the physical effect. And then, you got a bunch of sound effects as well for a bunch of the other trees, except for Town Square, Town Center, I think it's Town Center, the Spheres tree, and the Once Upon a Toy tree. Like, I'm fine, sure. Town Center actually did have a Magic Band Plus effect last year. I would love to know why they removed that. But Fine. I accept that I don't get to know that. But I really enjoyed that. The sheer stroll, I've been down here 3 years now. And this year's stroll was by far my favorite. Even though, they've been moving around trees, moving some of the ones I enjoyed. But they had a bunch of effects. We were, when I bought this set last night, we went by some of the trees as we were going, and I was messing with my magic band while we were doing it, and some of the effects were actually louder than they were initially, which means they're also paying attention to how guests are working with them, so that they can actually have proper usage, and not just, oh, okay, what does this one sound like? They are listening. They're just not. They're not caring unless their bottom line is affected. And ever since Muppets was announced to be removed, Jollywood Nights has been my go-to example. They don't care about the backlash unless it affects the bottom line. Jollywood Nights' first night being so awful caused them to immediately correct the course, because otherwise the event was going to have to be canceled moving forward. You can't have, 2 brand new shows get basically no funding back because of a bad first night. I don't think we can have that kind of showcase, public displays of people being mad at it. Well, okay, we can. We can have people being mad at MuppetVision being removed. But we're not going to have people go, okay, we're up here at corporate and we're seeing a lot of negative press about MuppetVision and it's going to cost us tickets. No, because it doesn't matter, right? Like, in the grand scheme, MuppetVision is going to be there's, a high weight on everything else, I'm going to go ride MuppetVision. For the average park guest, it is not a requirement for everyone to go see it, right? But for people that actually care about it, there's not much we can do, because Disney is just like, well, you're in the way. Get out here. We don't have that footing we had with Jollywood Nights, because So, this kind of goes back to my earlier thought process, right? Being a bit scatterbrained. Being a bit scatterbrained at this point. But this kind of goes back to Moana 2 and Thanksgiving. They also, just a few days ago, were talking, they brought a bunch of influencers and blogs and whatnot to the christening of the Disney Treasure up in New York. I did not get invited because they don't care that I care about the details, I guess. Sad. But that means you have a bunch of, Disney, a bunch of the vloggers, a bunch of those news sources talking about the treasure. You're going to have them talking about Moana in a couple of days. You've got some of them talking about the improvements that Jollywood Nights has had this year. You have all these positive things blocking out Muppets. We don't have everyone going, there's a new event, and all of it being negative for the first night. And that's unfortunately going to be the issue with trying to get any sort of backlash actually heard by Disney corporate for Muppet Vision. Because everyone's so distracted by all these other Disney things going on, they're not going to say, Disney, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? It's going to be the actually devoted fans that are going, what are you doing? There are so many things Disney could be doing right now, and none of them involve this. Why, I don't understand why they didn't think this through. If it's been, one of those concept art pieces was from 2020, probably right after COVID, right after Imagineering offices started reopening from COVID or whatever, right? At some point during that. Why, in that case, has this not been discussed with park operations? Why was this not... It feels like a very thoughtless decision is being made here, and I don't like that. Now, I have, I've been doing a lot of time at Disney because I live down here. That's part of the reason I live down here in Orlando, is to go to Disney whenever I want, right? I haven't been able to utilize it as much, but I do enjoy going to Disney. But I just don't think they're gonna pull off being able to keep, and they don't care, right? They'd rather once in a lifetime people come rather than the annual pass holders. It's already been slated that annual pass holders are less desired because we don't spend as much money per visit as regular park guests do. Fine. But look at Universal, right? Their whole thing is to try to get as many annual pass holders as possible, because that means people are going to come more often, which potentially means spending more money. Disney doesn't see it that way though, because whatever, fine. I don't know the finances. It just doesn't make any sense if we're going to have all these changes that APs aren't going to like, or cast members aren't going to like, but it gets eventually more money. Fine. It just, I think, alright, this set's almost coming to a close, but I think my major issue is just how much people are just being nonchalant about, oh, well, nobody cared about this anyways. People care about these attractions. Rivers of America, fine. Look, Tom Sawyer's Island, sure, fine. Yeah. That isn't as popular of an attraction anymore. But the rivers are. People like the rivers. People like Muppet Vision. Why are we acting like people aren't allowed to care about these things until, oh, well, you're faking it because, you just care because they're removing it. I like these attractions. I care about Muppet Vision. I enjoy Muppet Vision. I enjoy that Muppet Vision was one of the first Magic Band Plus attractions. We should not be tossing attractions to satisfy people that may not even come to the parks. I don't get it. I would love to understand the process going on here. I don't. We need to stop trying to rush more e-tickets to fight Epic Universe just because we waited, half a decade to make decisions before going, oh yeah, we're doing this. What? Why? I'm going to be interested watching this move forward, as it does feel like a lot of these decisions are trying to combat the potential guest loss from Epic Universe. But as I, finish up this disc and finish up the build, I just, I want to thank y'all for listening to me rant about the changes. And, I guess as a short little review of this build, this is a really fun build. I like the design. I like that, it's a nice gift with purchase. I enjoyed this build. It is completely unrelated to everything I've been ranting about the last 30-40 minutes, but it is a fun build. If you are able to, I actually don't know if it's going to be available at this point. If it's still available, you should definitely, especially if you're planning Lego sets, do it, get it. It's a fun build. Yeah. I guess that's it for me for now. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!